and welcome to Experience Small Business Matters podcast. My name is Emily Garman, and I'll be your host today. Joining us today is Jean Smart, the founder of Penelope, a company whose mission is to make 401K's and retirement plans available to everyone, especially entrepreneurs and small business owners. They develop software to make this not only affordable and possible, but simple. Usually 401Ks can only be offered by large companies that can afford the infrastructure to provide this benefit to their employees. Penelope believes that anyone, no matter how small their business, should be able to open a retirement account if they want to. Well, Jean, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk to you here. So tell us a little bit more about your background and what inspired you to start Penelope.
I have been working in financial services for most of my life, and a big part of what I was doing was helping large companies set up their workplace benefits and employer benefits, doing product marketing, sales strategies. So I was very familiar with it, and I've been doing it for so long that one of the things that I noticed, and this happened for me personally, is that this 401k product that large companies offer, when an employee starts putting a little bit of their paycheck over time, compounding that interest and putting it into the markets, that it was generating wealth for a lot of people, a lot of households. So I always knew that. And for me, it was something that I had started when I started working at 21. And after a couple decades in corporate America, that had grown to a really good nest egg. And it was something that I really felt compelled to do. And I think, like a lot of us, COVID was sort of a reset. What are you doing with your life? How are you working? How are you spending your time? I mean, truly sort of life or death. It gave me pause to think about, is there a way I could turn what I'm doing and do it in a very different way? So Penelope was born. It's a very personal journey on a lot of different fronts. I spent a big chunk of COVID very near my family. I live in New York, but my parents are in Southern California, and I got to see them a lot, of course, outside being safe. And I got to see sort of all the hard work that they put in their small businesses. And they just didn't know what a 401k plan was. And I thought, man, if this is something that they knew about earlier on, they could be in such a different position now. They're doing great, but it's just something I thought about a lot during COVID. And finally, it's named, Penelope's the name of my daughter. It's named after literally the direct beneficiary of my 401k plan, my husband's plan. She will benefit from everything her parents and her grandparents have done. And I think oftentimes when we're looking for meaning beyond just what we do and what our professions are. And a lot of that is for this next generation. So it kind of cobbled together, came through like in that moment. And then I jumped off the cliff and made the big leap to starting the company.
Wow, that's really inspiring to know. And I like that, thinking about the why and the reason why we're doing what we're doing. So I would think that a lot of small business owners, if they're thinking about this, they're thinking, well, I just couldn't afford it for my employees, or it's just me, and I'm a solopreneur. So what are some challenges that solopreneurs and small business owners face when thinking about offering these kind of benefits to themselves and their employees? And how are you addressing those challenges?
So first of all, the good news is I feel like there's more support. There's more help at both the federal, state, and just in the public sector space. So there's probably more support today than there ever has been. But I will say there are a lot of choices and a lot of confusion. So I think for solopreneurs and small business owners, and I am that too now, you're counting every dollar, every penny. You're looking at your customers. You're looking at expanding your business. You're looking at keeping your employees, and you're dealing with a lot of the sort of the pressures of running the business across a lot of dimensions. So when you're thinking of benefits, oftentimes people go to health, medical, dental, health benefits, and that can be quite sizable. Then you're looking at other benefits, maternity, family, sort of, there's so many different options. But the 401k plan right now is our singular most sort of proactive stance that we could take for our employees and ourselves to creating financial security when we're older. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but if you actually go to the Department of Labor website, Social Security is running it in 10 years. So that sort of security that we all banked on, or certainly generations before us, I don't think it'll ever go down to zero, but it won't be the fulsome amount we've had in the past. So the government has passed some legislation. It's called Secure 1 and Secure 2.0 to actually incentivize a lot of small businesses into taking action. So there's up to $16,500 tax credit for starter kits. People have never had a plan to sort of get started, to help support matching, to help support the cost of it, et cetera. Also, we've got Google. When you go on Google, there's so much. But again, you can get to analysis paralysis. What we designed specifically for small businesses, employers, is something where we did a lot of the thinking for them. So a lot of the plan design, it's sort of 1, 2, 3. Instead of answering 130 questions, we just ask a few questions around eligibility. A big portion of our plans are what we call safe harbor, which is a matching component. And we do that because that will save small business owners a significant amount of time in administrating and going through auditing and compliance testing down the road. So again, we designed it so it's sort of they're answering 4 questions versus 130. And a lot of people can get overwhelmed by investment options too. There's 30,000 funds, 50,000 funds. How do I choose it? We take index funds based on an employee's birthday. They're called target date funds, working with a world-class asset manager. And we automatically put them in a set of investments that help investors manage sort of risk, which is basically the amount of equity to bonds over time, so that the portfolio is a little more safe or conservative as they get older. And then a big part of what we also do is we price fairly. We have flat pricing. So a lot of the providers today customize a robust plan based on sort of complexities. There's sometimes proprietary funds. There are a lot of intermediaries in the mix. We just pay per use. And one of the things that really differentiates our plan from others is this thing called AUM, which stands for assets under management pricing. We don't charge that. We do charge sort of the general sort of expense ratios of the cost of maintaining and administering the fund that our providers use. But we don't do it because we're using a very modern sort of tech platform and service model to simplify it. What that translates to, it could be just, a couple cents a day, a couple of dollars a week, but that additional asset-based pricing over a lifetime can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars to go into the employee. And our North Star in building this has always been leverage technology, not to take away from the experience, to provide the most maximum value. So we want every employee, the lowest paid employee of the smallest company, to actually have a shot at having $1 million if they're working 40 or 50 years. So you can do that. And that's how we structured our product.
And that seems really appealing for a young entrepreneur, a young business owner, even though that person may not be thinking so much about retirement. It seems like a really long time away. They've got all kinds of time in their life before that happens. And as those of us who are a little bit older know, it really does creep up on you pretty quickly. But, for a person who's young, not necessarily seeing that this is something that maybe they need to think about right away or something, the process you've described, it's just a few questions instead of hundreds of questions. It's an online platform. They can communicate with experts via chat, instead of making phone calls. Those things sound really like they're appealing to a younger generation of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I think if you're young, younger the better. I actually think the younger generation, millennial, Gen Z, they're probably the smartest, most robust generation. I really have a lot of hope for the future, but I do think they're overwhelmed. I think there's so much information out there. But they're comfortable with digital tools. And the only thing that I could say is starting early. The best time to save for retirement is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. The third best time is tomorrow. That's it. There's nothing after that. And it It's much easier through these technology platforms when you're taking a little bit of your salary every 2 weeks, compounded over time. Everything is automated. We integrate with over 150 payroll providers. So no matter who you're using, we're able to make it really fast. So you're not having to manually do reports or check on it all the time. And you want to set it and forget it. But wait, before you set it and forget it, you want to make sure you've got the right funds. You want to make sure you know exactly what you're paying for at each step. And you want to make sure that you're checking in and your provider is accredited and can provide all the sort of education and support that you need. And just build it in. I think one of the things about these sort of flat-based pricing or subscription models, a lot of the younger business owners are already using it for small business enablement. They may already be using their PEO, their payroll, their accounting software already. So just integrate this into your core step and make it as easy as possible for you.
I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about how important this is, particularly for women. A lot of women are becoming entrepreneurs. They're becoming small business owners. They're creating jobs. And particularly women of color. I mean, we see Black women are far and away the highest percentage of businesses being started are by Black women right now, and during COVID as well. So it seems like, I think of a few people just in my life who are older women whose entire retirement livelihood is dependent upon what their husband did when he was working. So talk about, just the concept of preparing for retirement for women, young women, women of color.
I am a woman of color. I am an immigrant. I was born in Seoul, Korea. We didn't talk about stocks and bonds at the dinner table growing up. My parents were really busy starting their businesses, getting their family in order and making sure everything was right. I mean, they just had a lot going on. So I think they had a lot of big dreams about their children going into professional services and business and having things become easier. And looking back, starting my own business and having been in corporate America, I think all of it's hard. And especially women of color, we know particularly how hard that is. And when I think of women, not just women of color and retirement investing, women still make less, live longer, and are the primary caregivers or responsible for children, primarily a lot of the work at home, as well as for their parents. So to start early, you've got almost all the things kind of going against you. So you've got to start earlier. And I did a lot of thinking about that. And I thought a lot actually of my mom. And when they had their businesses, I remember growing up reading a lot of their business mail because English wasn't their first language. And they certainly didn't understand some of the tax laws or business letters and notices that they were getting. So I remember how stressful that was. And a big part of what she really wanted was, can you give me an oversight? Can you read this and tell me what I should do? Can you do this for me? So a lot of what we built in Penelope in terms of cutting out the intermediaries, pricing it per use, and putting the best investment with the least amount of effort was kind of designed with her in mind. And so it is 1, 2, 3, a few clicks. You can onboard in 15 minutes. And we're going to be doing it in a couple different languages next year for minority business owners who are more comfortable with other languages. So we've got that feature built in. And I mean, I'm right there. I had the fortunate birth to have parents who stayed together, who took care of us, who paid for my education. That really set me off. But I realized there's a lot going against. But you know what? We show up. Things are hard every day. We know what to do and we are committed to doing it. This is something we can't short out on. This is something we have to do. And whether it's with our platform or another platform, get educated, spend 15 minutes a day doing research or 30 minutes, and then make the decision a couple weeks and just check it off. And then you're done. you can put it aside and move on to your next challenge. But it is something particular for women and women of color to own and to do, especially if we are parents, to teach our children about. So, I get it. We do a ton of LIM videos and education sessions, and a significant portion of our clients are women-run businesses, are foreign-born business owners, and we welcome that group. I absolutely understand what that seat is like, and we try to do our very best to reduce jargon and just speak plain English, so that they're not intimidated and they can get started right away.
So when you're talking to those folks in those interactive sessions, I'm curious, obviously knowledge and just understanding how this all works is a barrier because people maybe are reluctant to engage because they just don't understand it. But what are some maybe myths or misconceptions that people have about a 401k, about a retirement plan that maybe you could share with us?
I think the biggest one is, should I match or should I not? I can't afford it. And I think a big part of what we do is we've got a tax calculator that provides a general estimate about how much their savings can be. And what they imagine is thousands of dollars every month ends up being a few hundred, and it is accessible. And that these are all new tax regulations and tax changes that came to foot. We are not CPAs, so we always make sure that we encourage them to talk to their accountants, but part of it is just that education. And I think the other part is beyond the cost is how much work that they have to put into it. What do I have to do every 2 weeks? Am I going to have to create spreadsheets? What do I have to communicate? And we take care of all of that for them. We give them a welcome kit with sample emails to educate and send to their employees. We have tons of triggers and alerts in emails and communications that are set up. We've got a security built in with two-factor authentication. We've got so many things that are automated that the idea of cost and labor is probably the biggest inhibitor. And once we do a quick demo and share what we've got, it's a fairly easy conversion, honestly. If they're ready at that point, for a small business owner to take any time talking to somebody is a big deal. So when they're there, we do our best to just answer their questions and make sure that they get what they need so they can move on to the rest of their day.
Well, in that vein, do you have any success stories that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So I'm thinking of a couple clients. Our first client is Roberta. She's the founder of a nonprofit. It's a theater company here in New York. And so, as soon as you hear the word nonprofit, people don't go into nonprofit thinking, I'm going to make a lot of money. They're going into it for passion for this, in this particular case, for the arts. And she's had this company for about 5+ years and always wanted to do this, but just didn't have an opportunity or find a solution where she didn't have to then learn about financial services and learn about investments or pay high advisor fees. She wanted to just get something set up fairly quickly and have her employees really understand and adopt to it. So we helped her set the plan, and her employees have been very happy. There are high participation rates for her, so we're really glad. Another client of ours, Jefferson, he's just like one of our very first clients, heard about us on a full podcast and was really interested. And he's a former Wall Street guy, a trader, knows investment, knows everything about this space. And he's got a restaurant in Boston, 4 of them in a big holding group. They're using different payroll providers, but a lot of their employees are wage earners. He's very committed to making sure that his managers or the prep cooks, the front group, that they're saving and they're really thinking about it. Certainly something he's done in investments for a long time. So he chose our plan over the Massachusetts Restaurant Association plan, knowing it would be easier for his employees. Some of them speak different languages. Some of them were born in other countries to actually set up He was also very much thinking about our costs, and about the decisions that a lot of his team would have to make. So we've been working really closely with, his manager teams to make sure that the education component, the onboarding component, and the experience is as seamless and as sort of straightforward as possible. So, that's a client that has been with us from the very beginning that we're really honored to serve. A third one is, a professional. It's a former lawyer who took some time off. She's a partner at a law firm, and took some time off to actually, spend more time with kids, starting our own practice and going into her own business and setting that up. And it's sort of, she's getting older. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting to set up my 401k. This is something I've got to do because there was that gap. So finding a platform, a product set, and, finding us who would make it really easy to serve because she's just got two people right now, I think was a huge plus for her. So these stories are a little bit every day. We cross and we service a lot of different industries, but I would say the common denominator is they're often smaller in employee size. They're just getting started. They've got employees. Generally, this is their first investment vehicle. So they would need it to be really simple, and the education is a big component of it. And they want to make sure they're getting the best deal. They are small business owners, and all the budget, in the world are important. So those are the things that we try to make sure that we're focused on all the time.
It's so interesting that so many entrepreneurs' stories are coming out of COVID. I mean, yours included, and the people you're helping are coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
A lot of people decided to change the trajectory of their careers, or they decided they wanted to do something completely different. And so the what you're doing is helping, help them prepare for the future.
I think it was something like 700,000 new businesses started during COVID. And then more and more, people are leaving larger organizations to try on their own. And I think part of it is technology, the platforms we have. You can set up your own online store. You can do your own advertising. You can actually get customers and do presentations and demos through, Zoom. The way we work and the way we operate is completely different. And there are many of them had a full-time job and a side hustle. And during COVID, they decided to turn that side hustle into a full hustle or full-blown business. So it is exciting to see a lot of creativity happening for sure.
Yeah. And people doing things that they love, that make a difference and for them and for the world and their communities. And I think that's terrific. So thank you so much for being on here. I've learned a lot about this and what you do. So tell us where our listeners can find you online and get in touch.
Sure. You can find us at www.penelope.co. Please join us. We've got a complimentary consultation. It's just 15 minutes to talk to any of our specialists about what we can offer. So please sign up there. And we're also on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the social media assets. So please check us out, find us. And again, thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, Jean. We're really glad to have you on today.